다시 한번 안내 말씀드립니다. 잠시 후 2017 서울안보대화 개막식이 시작될 예정입니다. 참가자들께서는 장내로 입장하셔서 착석해 주시길 바랍니다. 개막식은 동시 통역이 진행됩니다. 자리에 비치된 통역 수신기를 이용해 주시기 바랍니다. 한국어가 채널 1번, 영어 채널 2번, 중국어, 일본어, 러시아어, 스페인어 순입니다. 원활한 행사 진행을 위해 소지하고 계신 휴대전화는 무음이나 진동으로 전환하시거나 전원을 잠시 꺼주시기 바랍니다. The opening ceremony of Seoul Defense Dialogue 2017 will begin shortly. All participants are cordially asked to make their way into the hall and be seated. Simultaneous interpretation is provided through translation receivers on your table. Please set the channel to your language of choice. Korean is on channel number 1, English on channel 2, Chinese 3, Japanese on channel 4, Russian channel 5, and Spanish channel 6. If you could mute or turn off your mobile phones during the program, it'll be greatly appreciated. Thank you. 지금 이낙연 네, 지금 이낙연 국무총리님과 내빈들께서 입장하고 계십니다. 따뜻한 환영의 박수 부탁드립니다. Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon and other distinguished guests of the conference are entering the hall. Please greet them with a big round of applause. 네, 취재진들께서는 무대 밑으로 내려가 주시기 바랍니다.
Today's wars happen for no reason, without any notice, and not on a certain battlefield. A wave of enormous changes is surging on global security and economic order. Today's world is in an age of radical uncertainty when the future can hardly be forecasted. It is high time for Korea, the only divided nation in the world, to be prepared for responding to new security threats. The plenary sessions of the Seoul Defense Dialogue 2017 will cover the security of the Korean Peninsula, where North Korea continues its development of nuclear missiles. Seek for ways to establish maritime trust by discussing issues and various threats relating to maritime security. Deal with international efforts for and cooperation in achieving the stability and peace in cyberspace, along with the development of information and communication technologies. And discuss international cooperation in counterterrorism to respond to violent extremism and new forms of terrorism. The special sessions of the Seoul Defense Dialogue 2017 will address various issues such as the Fourth Industrial Revolution and defense science and technology, and the nature of future warfare and defense policies. The Seoul Defense Dialogue 2017, the sixth occasion since its launching in 2012, will address how to establish and improve international security cooperation in an age of uncertainty. event will begin right away with all who have attended the Seoul Defense Dialogue 2017.
(2017) 서울 안보 대화 그 의미와 프로그램을 소개하는 영상으로 개막식의 문을 활짝 열었습니다. 안녕하십니까? 저는 2017 서울 안보 대화 개막식 진행을 맡은 아나운서 정정입니다. 반갑습니다. 네, 오늘 이른 시간 개막식에 귀한 걸음 해주신 내빈 참가자 여러분들께 진심으로 감사의 말씀 드립니다. 올해로 6회째를 맞은 서울 안보대화 SDD는 명실상부한 국제다자 안보 협의체로 자리매김하고 있습니다. 세계와 한반도를 둘러싼 안보 현안에 대한 심도 있는 논의와 또 해법 제시를 위해 SDD 2017에서 여러분의 지혜를 모아주시길 바랍니다. 그럼 개막식의 첫 번째 순서로 개회사가 있겠습니다. 송영무 국방부 장관님을 무대로 모시고 개회사를 청해 듣도록 하겠습니다. 여러분의 따뜻한 박수 부탁드립니다.
안녕하십니까. 대한민국 국방부 장관 송영무입니다. 제6회 서울 안보대화에 참석하신 각국 정부와 국제기구 대표 그리고 국내외 전문가 여러분을 모시고 이런 자리를 갖게 되어 진심으로 환영하는 바입니다. 아울러 바쁘신 중에도 자리를 빛내주신 우리 국무총리 이낙연님과 기조연설을 맡아주실 메리 스페인 호주 국방장관님께 진심으로 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 각국 정부와 국제기구 대표 여러분, 잘 아시는 바와 같이 북한은 국제사회의 제재 규탄에도 불구하고 또다시 제6차 핵실험을 자행했습니다. 이는 한반도와 동북아는 물론 국제사회의 평화와 안정을 위협하는 심각한 도전입니다. 또한 세계 곳곳에서는 사이버 위협, 테러, 재난 등 초국가적 비전통적 안보 위험이 급증하여 국제적 불안이 증폭되고 있습니다. 이러한 위기를 극복하기 위해 국가 간의 협력이 절실히 요구되는 엄중한 시기에 불확실성 시대의 안보협력 비전을 주제로 서울 안보대화가 열리게 되어 국제적 다자 안보협의체로서의 역할이 더욱 기대되는 바입니다. 국제적 안보 위협을 극복하고 평화와 안정을 유지하기 위해서는 포괄적인 다자 간 안보협력을 더욱 강화해 나가야 할 것입니다. 이를 바탕으로 기존의 틀을 벗어나 새로운 평화 질서를 조성해야만 하겠습니다. 우리 대한민국의 문재인 대통령께서는 지키는 안보를 넘어 적극적 안보, 평화를 만드는 안보를 강조해 오고 계십니다. 불확실성을 극복하고 항구적인 평화를 구축하기 위해서는 피스키퍼를 넘어 새로운 평화 질서를 만들어가는 피스메이커가 되어야 하겠습니다. 이번 서울 안보대화를 통해 한반도와 국제사회 평화를 위한 우리 비전을 세계와 나누고자 합니다. 국제사회의 평화와 안정을 위한 협력에 여러분 모두가 적극 동참해 줄 것을 희망하는 바입니다. 여러분의 관심과 참여가 인류의 평화를 위한 희망의 씨앗이 되기를 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
송영무 장관님 대단히 감사합니다. 개회사를 통해 새로운 평화 질서를 만드는 피스메이커의 중요성 역설해 주셨습니다. 여러분 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 네, 2017 서울 안보 대화 개막을 기념하는 축사 순서 있겠습니다. 대한민국 대통령께서 아쉽게도 참석을 하지 못하셔서 영상으로 축하의 마음을 담아주셨습니다. 그럼 영상 메시지 화면을 통해 함께 만나보시겠습니다.
제6회 서울안보대화 개최를 축하드립니다. 세계 각국에서 오신 국방당국자, 안보 전문가, 국제기구 관계자 여러분을 진심으로 환영합니다. 서울안보대화는 이제 전 세계 40여 개 국가, 국제기구에서 500여 명이 참가하는 명실상부한 국제다자 안보협의체로 성장했습니다. 특히 전통적 안보를 넘어 테러, 난민, 재난, 해양 분쟁 등 최근 부각된 안보 이슈까지 대화의 범위를 확대해 온 것을 매우 뜻깊게 생각합니다. 서울 안보 대화의 발전을 이끌어 오신 관계자 여러분의 열정과 노력에 깊이 감사드립니다. 내외 기민 여러분, 이번 서울 안보 대화의 주제는 불확실성 시대의 안보 협력 비전입니다. 테러 행위는 무고한 시민의 생명을 빼앗는 반인권적 안보 위협으로서 철저히 건절해야 할 것입니다. 날로 첨단화, 국제화되는 사이버 범죄 위협에도 선제적으로 대응해야 합니다. 새로운 형태의 안보 위협에 대해 국제적인 협력과 공동 대응이 한층 강화되기를 바랍니다. 한국도 국제사회의 노력에 적극 동참하겠습니다. 최근 동북아 국제안보 질서의 가장 큰 위협은 북한의 핵과 미사일 도발입니다. 대한민국 정부는 한반도 평화 없이 세계 평화도 없다는 엄중한 인식 아래 북한의 위협에 대해 유엔 등 국제사회와 함께 단호하게 대응하고 있습니다. 반드시 평화적으로 해결하기 위해 모든 노력을 다할 것입니다. 한국 정부의 노력에 대해 각국 대표들의 지속적인 관심과 지지를 부탁드립니다. 이번 서울 안보 대화가 세계 안보 협력의 비전을 만들고 안보 위협에 대한 실질적인 해법을 찾는 소중한 자리가 되길 바랍니다. 서울에 머무시는 동안 참석자 여러분 모두 즐겁고 보람된 시간 보내시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
네, 2017 서울 안보 대화 개막을 축하하는 대통령님의 말씀 잘 들었습니다. 이어서 축사가 있겠습니다. 이낙연 국무총리님을 무대로 모시고 축사 말씀 정해 듣겠습니다. 여러분 따뜻한 박수 부탁드립니다.
마리스 페인 호주 국방장관님을 비롯한 세계 각국의 정부 대표와 국제기구 대표 그리고 안보 전문가 여러분, 제6회 서울 안보대화에서 여러분을 뵙게 되어 기쁩니다. 이 대화에 처음 참석해 주신 독일, 이탈리아, 핀란드 등 유럽 국가 대표 여러분께 각별한 감사를 드립니다. 서울 안보대화는 국가 간 분쟁과 무차별적인 테러, 사이버 공격 등 한 나라의 노력만으로는 대처하기 어려운 복합적 안보 위기에 대응하기 위해 2012년 연례 다자안보 협의체로서 출범했습니다. 그 후 5년 동안 아태 지역 다자안보 협력을 위해 노력해왔습니다. 올해 안보대화의 주제는 불확실성 시대의 안보 협력 비전입니다. 날로 심화되는 안보 위기의 복합성과 불확실성에 비추어 매우 시의적절한 주제라고 생각합니다. 참가자 여러분께서 지혜를 모아주시기 바랍니다. 지금 동북아 최대의 불확실성은 북한의 핵과 미사일 능력 고도화에서 비롯됩니다. 북한은 최근 2달 동안만도 ICBM급 미사일과 IRBM을 발사했습니다. 이어 이달 3일에는 6차 핵실험을 강행했습니다. 북한은 ICBM 장착용 수소탄 실험에 완전히 성공했다고 주장했습니다. 북한 정권 수립일인 9일에는 ICBM을 정상 각도로 발사하는 추가 도발이 이어질 것이라는 예측도 있습니다. 매우 엄중한 상황입니다. 북한의 완전한 핵무장까지 시간이 많이 남아있지 않아 보입니다. 북한의 폭주를 멈추게 할 특단의 대책이 화급합니다. 여러분의 지혜가 필요합니다. 한국 정부는 굳건한 한미동맹에 바탕한 한미 연합 방위 능력과 한국 독자 대응 전력을 극대화하고 국제사회와 강력히 공조하면서 북한의 망상을 깨뜨리려는 결의를 다지고 있습니다. 북한의 핵무장을 멈추도록 하기 위한 수단으로는 제재, 군사적 억제, 대화가 상정되곤 합니다. 지금은 그 가운데서 제재를 최대한 강화하면서 군사적 억제 수단을 충분히 확보할 시기라고 생각합니다. 대화는 궁극적으로 필요하지만 지금은 북한과의 대화를 거론할 때는 아니라고 봅니다. 먼저 한국은 대북 제재를 최강의 수준으로 높이기 위해 노력하고 있습니다. 한국 정부는 유엔 안보리가 긴급 회의를 열어 최강의 대북 제재를 결의하도록 제안했습니다. 한국의 문재인 대통령은 대북 원유 공급 중단, 해외 노동자 송출 금지와 같은 북한의 외화 수입원 차단을 비롯한 강력한 대북 제재를 주변국에 요청하고 있습니다. 또한 한국 정부는 군사적 억제 수단 확보에도 노력하고 있습니다. 한미 정상은 한국 미사일의 탄두 중량 제한을 없애기로 합의했습니다. 한국은 사드 체계의 임시 배치도 곧 완료할 것입니다. 북한의 핵무장은 한국뿐만 아니라 동북아, 나아가 세계의 안보를 위협합니다. 국제사회의 단합된 노력이 절실합니다. 북한의 핵위협을 비롯해서 갈수록 심화되는 복합적 안보 위협에 대응하는 최선의 방안은 국가 간 협력입니다. 이 문제를 여러분께서 충분히 논의하고 의미 있는 합의를 이루시기를 바랍니다. 대한민국 정부는 안보 위기 공동 대응을 위한 국제적 협력에 적극 참여할 것입니다. 여러분이 잘 아시다시피 1950년 대한민국은 북한의 침략을 받아 3년 동안 내전을 겪었습니다. 그때 미국과 호주와 독일과 이탈리아, 핀란드를 비롯한 유엔 회원국들의 참전과 도움으로 한국은 자유민주주의 국가를 지킬 수 있었습니다. 지금 한국은 평화를 누리면서 1인당 국민소득 3만 달러를 앞두고 있습니다. 한국전쟁 직후 1인당 국민소득 60달러에 비하면 놀라운 기적입니다. 한국의 이 같은 평화와 번영은 국제사회의 선물입니다. 한국은 그 선물에 보답하기 위해서 국제사회의 평화와 인류 공영을 위해서 공헌할 준비를 갖추고 있습니다. 그러한 시기에 한국이 다시 안보 위기에 직면했습니다. 이번에도 한국민은 국제사회의 도움을 받아 평화를 지키기 위한 강력한 결의를 다지고 있습니다. 이번 안보대화가 한국민의 평화 유지를 격려하고 북한의 망상을 저지하는 데 도움이 되리라 믿습니다. 멀리서 한국을 찾아주신 여러분께 다시 한번 감사를 드리며 이번 서울 안보대화가 인류의 평화를 정진하기 위한 국제적 협력을 강화하는 데 중요한 디딤돌이 되기를 기대합니다. 감사합니다.
이낙연 국무총리님의 축하 말씀이었습니다. 대단히 감사합니다. 네, 이낙연 국무총리님과 송영무 장관님께서는 일정 관계상 부득이하게 행사장을 떠나시게 됐습니다. 여러분의 큰 박수로 환송해 주시길 바랍니다. 개막을 직접 축하해 주시기 위해 귀한 걸음 해주신 이낙연 국무총리 또 송영무 장관님께서 일정 관계상 행사장을 일찍 떠나게 되셨습니다. 다시 한번 큰 박수로 환송해 주시기 바랍니다. 네, 2017 서울안보대화 개막식을 함께 하고 계십니다. 다음으로 서울안보대화의 기조연설이 있겠습니다. 기조연설에는 Marise Payne 호주 국방장관께서 수고해 주시겠습니다. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you can join me in welcoming Minister Marise Payne to the stage for the keynote.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And to the Prime Minister Lee Nak-yong and Minister Song Young-mu, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this morning and meet with you all, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. The Seoul Defence Dialogue has a very well-earned reputation as a major forum for fostering understanding and cooperation on regional and global security issues. It's become an important fixture in high-level discussion on strategic challenges. The more interconnected and interdependent the world becomes, the more important this forum becomes. I'm very honoured by the invitation to deliver this year's 2017 keynote address. The powerful message that the introductory video presented this morning reminded us of the importance of the issues that are going to be discussed in the dialogue this week. We meet in the aftermath of the most recent and most dangerous provocations by North Korea to date: the claimed detonation of a hydrogen bomb and the intermediate range ballistic missile test last week, which overflew Japan. Australia unequivocally condemns North Korea's flagrant defiance of United Nations Security Council resolutions, which are specifically aimed at North Korea's illegal nuclear weapons and ballistic missile program. And we stand together with the Republic of Korea, with Japan, with other like-minded nations, in meeting and addressing the challenges of such provocations through collective action. Pyongyang's dangerous behaviour continues to be completely at odds with the spirit of growth and connection that have defined this region since North Korean aggression was first felt more than 70 years ago. Visiting Seoul today in 2017, it is hard to imagine the absolute horror of the Korean War. When North Korean forces attacked from north of the 38th parallel, they pushed into Seoul and beyond, leaving a terrible toll in their wake. The United Nations forces then, as we know, pushed back after the daring landing at Incheon. But the war continued for a full 3 years and devastated the Korean peninsula. The death toll of this brutal conflict may never be accurately known, but it certainly exceeded 1 million lives. Yet, it was from that destruction that the Republic of Korea arose. Not only did it rise, it built the miracle on the Han River, one of the great tales of rapid economic development in human history. And in the decades since, the Republic of Korea and its people have created a modern, dynamic, globally connected economy. And decades later, Australia is proud that when the call went out from the United Nations to assist Korea, we answered that call as a determined and confident member of the United Nations. In fact, Australian military observers played a key role in then persuading the UN Security Council to take action. In the weeks that led up to the outbreak of hostilities on the 25th of June, Major FSB Peach and Squadron Leader RJ Rankin were conducting inspections on behalf of the Committee of the Whole under the UN Commission on Korea. Their report, attesting to the purely defensive nature of South Korean deployments, was key to the Commission's submission to the fledgling UN Security Council and the decision to invoke Article 27 of the United Nations Charter. As Robert O'Neill writes in The History of Australia in the Korean War, and I quote, "The journey of Peach and Rankin ranks as one of the foremost consequential reconnaissances ever conducted by Australian service officers." Indeed, more than 17,000 Australians subsequently served in Korea over the conflict, 340 of whom lost their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, Australia remains a nation that is committed to making a contribution to global security, including when nations are under open threat. Today, we have Australian Defence Force personnel and combat aircraft in Iraq, training and supporting the Iraqi security forces in their fight against Daesh. And in Afghanistan, we are training and advising Afghan security forces in their fight for protection against the Taliban. These observations about history and today's contributions by Australia to global security illustrate the key point that I want to make this morning. That is that peace and stability don't just happen. They're not free and they're not part-time pursuits. Indeed, peace and stability are only achieved when nations work together to build them. And once achieved, peace and stability must be cultivated and developed and ultimately preserved. The alternative is unthinkable. The best example we have, right in front of us, is the rules-based global order that was built in the aftermath of World War II and the Korean War. A rules-based order that has delivered great stability and extraordinary prosperity. A global order that has enabled Korea and many others to drive their economic development and determine their own future as equals in the world. And a global order that only functions when we all actively contribute to its maintenance. And as we consider the uncertainties ahead, I would contend that we have to hold on to that order all the more tightly, for the uncertainties are indeed considerable. Our region's unprecedented economic growth owes its much to its integration with global financial systems and ambitious economic cooperation between nations, as it does to the ongoing peace and stability of the region, which has been underwritten by the participation of the United States over many decades. Our host country's transformation into an economic powerhouse is, as I said, a case in point. The Republic of Korea has enjoyed enviable economic growth over recent decades to indeed become the world's 11th largest economy in 2015. Korea is Australia's 4th largest trading partner and our 4th largest market for goods and services exports in the last financial year, totalling almost $20 billion. This is part of Australia's strong integration with Northeast Asia, as are our connections with Japan and with China. Japan indeed is Australia's 3rd largest trading partner, a value of over $60 billion, while China is Australia's largest overall trading partner, export market and source of imports at over $155 billion. By 2030, only 13 years from now, it's predicted that East Asia will produce 1/3 of global GDP. But what we can't do, what we can't afford to do, is to assume that our growing economic interdependence will automatically deliver the security dividends we might expect. In particular, therefore, we need to ensure that our regional security architecture keeps pace with the shifting dynamics between major and emerging powers. China, for example, is now far more engaged on political and security issues in the region than it was 20 years ago, and its economic growth continues. The United States, a long-standing bulwark for the region's security and wealth, will continue to be the partner of choice for many in the region. Our regional stability continues to rely on confident, economically vibrant and military capable allies, including Japan and Australia and the Republic of Korea. However, broader global trends also have an impact on our region's security. Lacklustre growth and productivity, rising nationalism and social rigidity, the globalisation of terrorist threats, and some wavering commitment to open economies are making the global system more fragile. At the regional level, territorial disputes may present potential flashpoints that continue to plague interactions between key players in the region. And rapid military modernisation has, in some cases, increased tensions. So too have activities which are contrary to international law, including the actions of land creation, of construction and militarisation on disputed features in the South China Sea. We've seen global terrorism spread to Southeast Asia, with foreign fighters being lured to new theatres, such as the southern Philippines. Most disturbingly, North Korea has demonstrated it is set on a course of flagrant and reckless defiance of UN Security Council resolutions. These are actions which are clearly destabilising. Responsibility for those increasing tensions in the region sits squarely with Pyongyang, and we cannot allow that sort of brinkmanship to succeed. This is a critical test for the international community. I don't believe that we're bound to repeat history. We can avoid conflict and confrontation. We can look to our own experiences to see the approaches that have delivered tangible benefits to the region. Namely, that adherence to a rules-based order brings prosperity to millions of people across the Indo-Pacific through economic liberalisation, cooperation and integration. It provides security through recourse to dispute settlement forums and international law. In a region as diverse as ours, as enormous as ours, common rules are a strong, stabilising force representing our best investment in managing uncertainty. The appeal of the rules-based order is not lost on countries across the entire region, whatever their political system, whatever their size. Greater security and greater prosperity are the measurable outcomes. It has shown that competition can lead to cooperation when countries are able to compete fairly. That applies no less to China and the United States than it does to Singapore and Vietnam, or to Laos and Australia. All of us have benefited from the rules-based global order, an order that came of hard work over many years, not from random chance or simple good fortune. So at this time of heightened uncertainty, we should be reinforcing the rules, not allowing them to be bent or disregarded. It doesn't mean that they're carved in stone, but it does mean that efforts to change them need to be orderly and collaborative. What does it mean, though, in practical terms? Simply put, it means that no country is above the law and no country can be denied recourse to the law. That's why Australia, with others, has urged the parties to the UNCLOS arbitration established in accordance with the UN Convention to abide by the ruling on the South China Sea, to show responsible leadership and deference to the rule of law. That's why Australia supports further strong UN Security Council sanctions against North Korea, to demonstrate and reinforce that flouting legitimate international commitments will have consequences. That's why Australia is participating in the International Coalition Against Daesh and against the Taliban, and is providing assistance to the Philippines to show that any unlawful and illegitimate attack against the fundamental values at the heart of international law will be held accountable at its source. That leads to a second question. What can we in this region do to promote adherence to the rules-based order? More specifically, how can we, as defence ministers, as vice ministers, as secretaries, as officials, bolster regional security cooperation and ensure that disputes are settled before they grow into conflicts? First and foremost, in the context of this Seoul Defence Dialogue today, we must address the real and growing threat posed by North Korea. Our starting point must be that North Korea cannot be allowed to exercise coercive power of any sort under any circumstances. Our goal, agreed through the work of the UN Security Council, must be to change North Korea's behaviour and deter it from threatening the region and the world with illegal weapons. The most recent UN Security Council resolution imposing new measures against Pyongyang raised the bar significantly. But North Korea's flagrant provocations since then show that more can and indeed must be done. The key now is not only to ensure that existing measures are implemented in full by all members of the international community, but, as recent discussions have demonstrated, we must also consider further measures to place additional pressure on the regime to change its destructive course. For our part, Australia is playing its role through full implementation of UN sanctions and our own autonomous sanctions regime. And Australia is also, with other parties, calling on the UN Security Council to urgently consider further strong measures that would pressure North Korea to change its destructive course. China's role is vital. We believe that China can do more. It has economic leverage and influence over North Korea that other countries simply do not have. We can't lose sight of the fact that these provocative acts and the resulting increase in tensions are entirely of North Korea's doing, and that responsibility sits squarely with the regime. Australia is actively involved with the United Nations Command and is committed to increasing cooperation and coordinated activity amongst like-minded countries to de-escalate tensions on the peninsula. In particular, we are strengthening our respective bilateral and multilateral relationships with other partners, such as South Korea, such as Japan, and indeed the United States. Secondly, I believe that we need to set a higher level of ambition for addressing security issues through our existing regional architecture, particularly through engagement with ASEAN. And further to that, the East Asia Summit, ASEAN-centred and bringing together all 18 regional leaders, can be the region's key leaders forum that can help manage the region's strategic risks. We have to continue to work together with ASEAN and with other regional partners to strengthen the strategic dimension of the East Asia Summit, in line with the commitment that leaders made in the 2015 Kuala Lumpur Declaration. We, from a defence context, can also reinforce these efforts through more regular meetings of the ASEAN Defence Ministers Meetings Plus, and through practical exchanges, through capability and interoperability activities that the framework facilitates. I'm very pleased to hear of ASEAN's support for increasing the frequency of meetings from biennial to annual events. The ADMM Plus has made impressive gains in fostering military cooperation towards achieving common regional security goals. And Australia is very pleased to be playing a key role by co-chairing the ADMM Plus Working Experts Group on peacekeeping cooperation with Indonesia to 2020. I very much look forward to discussing the ADMM Plus priorities as well as the evolving security environment at the ministerial meeting in Manila in October. Australia greatly values ASEAN's vision for regional prosperity and peace, and I speak in support of my Prime Minister, the Honourable Malcolm Turnbull, when I say that Australia is looking forward to hosting the ASEAN-Australia Summit in March 2018 and to advancing that strategic partnership. Third, our collective success in both strengthening this regional security architecture and building stronger relationships more broadly depends on more and better bilateral engagement between both traditional partners as well as new ones. And it's vital that regional nations maintain strong, independent foreign and defence policies, free of coercion from other countries. In this environment, Australia restates, as we have in recent times, that we will continue to exercise our rights of freedom of navigation and overflight, including in the South China Sea. We are also stepping up our international engagement efforts, particularly including those outlined in the government's Defence White Paper of 2016. These efforts include conducting and participating in more regular multinational engagements and exercises. In fact, this week, Australia deployed a joint task group as part of Exercise Indo-Pacific Endeavour 2017 to promote security and stability in the region through bilateral and multilateral engagement, through training and capacity building. The task group will comprise elements from across the Australian Defence Force, led by one of our largest vessels, the Canberra-class amphibious assault ship HMAS Adelaide. Over the next 2 months, the Joint Task Group has a program of visits and exercises with many of the nations who are represented here this morning. Many of our challenges are common ones. And, like this Seoul Defence Dialogue, Indo-Pacific Endeavour is a valuable mechanism to build regional cooperation. We have made good progress on delivering Australia's commitment to maritime security in the Pacific, with the construction of our first Guardian-class patrol boat commencing in August ahead of delivery late next year, and we have contracted aerial surveillance commencing across the Pacific before the end of this year. We are growing our bilateral defence relationships to foster better understanding and enhance interoperability across the region. We engage in training, in exercises and activities and exchange activities, including the Australia-China bilateral army training exercise, which is to be hosted by China for the first time this year. We offer English language training in Vietnam to enable it to carry out its planned peacekeeping mission in South Sudan as part of UNMISS. We have a strong program of counter-improvised explosive device cooperation with Thailand to address the threat of IED use by insurgents in the south of that country, and a suite of annual Special Forces exercises with Thailand as well. These and other activities are made all the more productive through regular dialogue, which is aimed at enhancing transparency and trust, including the recent Australia-China Defence Strategic Policy Dialogue for officials, which was held recently in Canberra, our 2+2 Defence and Foreign Ministers meeting with Indonesia, as well as working-level exchanges with many nations. Australia's approach is to look to steadily grow our relationships with non-traditional partners, to create habits of cooperation and contribute to security initiatives within and well beyond our region. I valued the opportunity to travel just recently to Singapore, to Thailand, to Laos and to Vietnam for talks on regional security issues just 2 weeks ago. I was very honoured by the warm and positive welcomes I received and encouraged by our productive discussions. I was very pleased to be able to offer the Royal Australian Air Force's assistance in providing transport support for Vietnamese peacekeepers to South Sudan when I was in Hanoi 10 days ago. At the same time, we're able to offer practical assistance wherever it might be needed, whether it is in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, or, for example, our support to the Philippines in addressing the recent upsurge in terrorist activity in the south of that country. For us, regionally, the threat posed by ISIS-affiliated extremist groups in the Philippines and the resurgence of Al-Qaeda and its affiliates in Southeast Asia is a serious threat to our shared security, and we all in this room have an interest in combating that scourge. We've been working with the government and the armed forces of the Philippines, with 2 Australian AP-3C Orion aircraft providing surveillance support to the current effort against Islamic extremists in the south. In fact, I look forward to travelling from Seoul to Manila tomorrow to discuss the evolving threat and our bilateral cooperation further. Ladies and gentlemen, Australia is very pleased to be delivering the keynote address here this morning. We want to be seen for what we are, a security partner who is consistent, who can be relied on both in the region and through our contributions to coalition efforts such as in the Middle East and Afghanistan to fight terrorism at its source. This also applies to global challenges and how we address them in our region, such as the threat of weapons of mass destruction. As we meet here today, Australia is hosting a major exercise under the Proliferation Security Initiative to enhance regional capabilities to prevent the spread of weapons of mass destruction. This brings me to my fourth and final point on bolstering security cooperation in the region. Cooperation between like-minded countries plays and will continue to play a key role by showing leadership on adherence to the rules-based order and the stability and the predictability this brings. The sort of cooperation that our senior speakers, the President, the Prime Minister and Minister Song spoke of this morning in relation to the Seoul Defence Dialogue. Cooperation against the sort of threat that we are discussing today in relation to North Korea, but also in relation to counter-terrorism, in relation to disaster relief, in relation to cybersecurity and cyber warfare. Ongoing US engagement in this region is vital in this regard, as much as for the US's future as for that of the region and for the world. There's no question that we will all stand to benefit from a US-China relationship which is grounded in cooperation rather than competition. The ideals of the United States, their power, their ability to innovate, have been the bedrock of the region's security and its economic vibrancy for decades. And their commitment to the rule of law, alongside that of like-minded partners, offers warm assurance to those nations, small and large, who don't want to become the victims of coercion or the arbitrary actions of more powerful states. Australia, the Republic of Korea, Japan have been important partners in this regard. India is likewise playing a more active role. The sense of responsibility that we bring individually makes the whole much more than the sum of the parts. And it is important for each of us to engage as a vital partner for resolving challenges and reinforcing rules that enhance predictability and stability for all. We want to see China in the region build a leadership role in a way that strengthens the regional order, because nobody can be in any doubt that the future of our world is being authored here in the Indo-Pacific region. So it's imperative, therefore, that we succeed in ensuring that this future is a peaceful, a stable, a secure and a prosperous one. The best way that we, as Defence Ministers, as senior military and defence organisation officials, can do that is to commit ourselves to finding new opportunities to build that cooperation I've spoken on, and making sure that our international cooperation is at the core of what we do as defence organisations, ensuring that we have an ability to look out as well as focus internally on what we do every day. In concluding, I note that Australia has long based its defence and security policy on a region-wide outlook. Our 2016 Defence White Paper made it clear that one of our three strategic defence interests is a stable Indo-Pacific region and rules-based global order. Our third strategic defence objective is to provide meaningful responses to meaningful contributions to global responses that address threats to the rules-based global order and which threaten Australia. Alongside heightened interests in the Indo-Pacific, Australia will continue to engage constructively in and with a region that is increasingly driving the world economy. Our response to uncertainty and complexity in our strategic environment will be to create new opportunities for collaboration and cooperation, to consolidate like-minded cooperation, to engage with China, to draw on the diverse strength of our strong and valuable alliance with the United States, and to pursue openings with new partners. We are realistic about our prospects, but we don't want to artificially fetter our ambitions. We will be consistent. We won't shy away from making our national interests known so that we can work in the space where they overlap with others and in the interests of all. And in all that we do, we will continue to point to the enduring benefits of the global rules-based order as a point of reference for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. I look forward to coming back to Seoul next month, in fact, for our next round of bilateral defence and foreign ministerial talks, and I wish all of you, as participants in this very important 6th Seoul Defence Dialogue, the best for your deliberations on those critical issues for our region and for the world. Thank you.
Minister, we are immensely grateful for your invaluable insight and your wonderful talk. 네, 페인 국방장관의 기조 연설이었습니다. 이제 개막식 마지막 순서로 사진 촬영이 있겠습니다. 각국 대표단께서는 지금 무대 위로 올라와 주시기 바랍니다. Distinguished guests, especially heads of delegation, I would like to ask you to come forward onto the stage for a group photo session. Once again, heads of delegation, please join us on stage for a group photo session. Distinguished guests, please stand a little bit closer to each other. We're going for 2 rows. 네, 촬영 준비가 되어가는 듯합니다. 저희가 하나 둘 셋 하면 SDD라고 하시면서 환하게 웃어주시면 감사하겠습니다. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of cheese, how about we go for SDD? Please give us a big smile on the cue of 3. SDD 저거 마크 좀 띄워치워달라고 그러시는데? 저 앞에 SDD. Do bear with us for 1 minute. We want to get the best shot possible.
앞에 있는 사람도 앉으라고.
네, 앞줄에 계신 취재진분들께서는 아래로 좀 앉아주시기 바랍니다. 취재진분들께서 많으신 관계로 네네, 아니면 전체적으로 지금 취재진분들은 조금 더 뒤로 나가주시면 어떠실까요? 네, 이제 들어가겠습니다. The cue is 3, and let's go for SDD. Now, 1, 2, SDD. Please give us a big smile. Now, let's try a different pose. 네, 왼쪽 주먹을 드시고 화이팅 포즈 한번 부탁드려 보겠습니다. Please hold your right fist up as a show of our united commitment to peace. Like this, hold your right fist up. 네, 두 번째 포즈 오른쪽 주먹을 드시고 화이팅 포즈 한번 가볼까요? Could you please raise your right fist up? Yes, like this. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Thank you so very much, distinguished guests. Now we would like to conclude the opening ceremony. Thank you so very much.